marriage itself, it's the very foundation of who we are as persons. There's nobody here who is immaculately conceived. Only Jesus is. Nobody here, everyone here came out of a family, came out of a union, came out of some version of family setup that gave birth to you as a person. So it's very, very close to us. So I'm strictly answering the questions that I was given. And if there are other questions, they will come up. The first one is, it has been talked about over time that a man should be older than a woman in marriage. I don't know who was talking about it. Is this an important factor to consider before getting married? Question is, should the man be older than the woman? Should the woman be older than the man? Is that a concern? Now, these are some things you should note. 3 very important things. Number 1, while the church speaks of the age of marriage for a man and a woman, she does not legislate about who should be older. The church does not legislate about that. There's nothing like the man should be older than the woman should be older. There's only a canonical age for marriage. Okay? The age for a valid sacramental marriage, by sacramental, because now I realize that when I'm speaking, I have to be explaining what I'm saying. Sacramental means marriage that is a sacrament, the one done in church. Sacramental marriage, according to the Code of Canon Law, that's the 1983 Code of Canon Law, Canon 1083, it says that the man should be at least 16 years old, and then the woman should be at least 14 years old. Okay, that's canon law. But under Section 4 of the Marital Acts of 2014, Nigerian Marital Acts, a person shall not marry unless that person has attained the age of 18 years, legal age in Nigeria. So Roman customs and tradition says 16 for the boy, 14 for the girl. The Nigerian law says 18 minimum. So at 18 you have attained adulthood. The rule applies to the 5 categories of marriage which are recognized under the Marital Acts in Nigeria, Section 6 of the Acts: Christian, Hindu, civil, customary, and Islamic. Number 3, pointer, there is no prescription about who should be older or younger. There's no prescription. A person has a right to choose who to marry, regardless of their age, so long as they are not being deceived by their partner. Because this is possible. The woman could be older, but she doesn't want the man to think that she's older, so she adjusts her age. I've been in the parish office, not here, some time ago, where a lady doctored her baptismal card. And I said, sorry, you need to get a certified truth copy because this one has been invalidated by that action. And she was looking at me like, Father, cooperate. I'm like, my friend, there's no cooperate situation. Go and change it. The place is very far. I'm like, you have to go and get it done, get it adjusted. But I guess she did that by herself. Okay, so if you are deceiving the other person, sorry. In marriage, there is no room for football age, no football age. Your partner deserves to know how old or how young you are. Question 2. Can true love fade? Can love fade like clothes? Now this is a question. When crises become overwhelming in marriage, what is next? Basically, when people talk about fading of love, it's a fear that some kind of misunderstanding is beginning to crop up in the marriage that is causing them to rethink their initial decision. Sorry, once you don't enter, you don't enter. So when crisis comes, the question is now how to manage it, not how to destroy the marriage or to run away. So first thing is, crisis escalates in marriage due to poor planning. So first of all, there has to be proper planning. You need to know that you are entering something that is going to be for life. So plan as somebody who's going to live for life. Second is grow gradually. Grow gradually. Don't rush into it. You meet somebody, the person looks wonderful. The person looks too good to be true. The truth is that it is too good to be true. Take your time. Don't rush. Don't rush. Enter officially into, become friends. After you've asked questions, become friends. Get to know this person on a normal day. What is this person like on a normal day? Be friends. Then you now enter formally into courtship. Now say, okay, I've seen some of the things that I think I need and I am okay with what I've seen. Now we can officially now become people who are preparing for marriage. And for that, you need at least 1 year. After you don't do the initial finding, you need 1 year of officially going through the stage of courtship. In that 1 year, you go through marriage instruction. In that 1 year, you go through counseling. In that 1 year, you start finding out all the things culturally that you need to fulfill in order for both of you to be considered marriage according to custom and according to the church. You find out from the church what you need to do as preparation for your marriage course, finding out where you want to do the wedding, what it will cost to do the wedding, planning, budgeting, all those things. And then you now start going through your marriage course and doing all the other things that are needed.
You said something about canonical age.
Canonical age of marriage.
Yeah, so I need you to explain that.
Canonical age means, according to the church's law, how old do you need to be in order to be married? And I said it's 16 for male and 14 for female, according to the canon law.
Okay, because you said the church does not really look at the age.
No, the question is who should be older? Is it the man or the woman? And I said we don't legislate on that.
Okay, what if the woman is older?
If both of them agree, say we're now married, the church will marry both of you.
Okay. Then my second question is this. A Catholic who was, the person is born into a Catholic family, but now the person is no longer attending Mass. He goes to MFM.
Why did I think it was FMFM? But continue.
And he's still saying, okay, if he wants to get married, he's going to get married into the church.
What does that mean?
As in, he's saying that he's still going to get married in Catholic church.
Okay.
You understand? But now he doesn't attend Mass. And each time we tell him, okay, did you attend Mass? He gets angry that he attends services. So in such cases, will the church still approve such marriage? Or
that was actually the last thing I mentioned. If a person is notorious for abandoning their faith, the church will tell you, you're entering one chance. They'll tell you, the Catholic party, that you're entering one chance, because this is not a person who is not a Catholic. So it's not a case of, I don't know what the church practices. It's the case that I say, I know want the church. Church should stay on their own. Church should day is day, and I day my day. And then the person now coming to say, I want to come and drag somebody out of the church. You yourself that is entering into that relationship, open your eyes.
Okay, then my last question is this. I have a friend. He was a Catholic. He got married in Catholic church, but before then he was attending Grail Message.
Grail, okay.
Yes. So each time I ask him, do you still attend Mass? He will tell me, except they invite him for Mass. But funny enough, he got wedded in Catholic church. So after the wedding, he doesn't talk anything about Catholic faith. So he talks more of the Grail Message and all that. But this was really someone who used to be a very strong Catholic. So I don't know, is it that the church knows that these people have left, or the church will say, okay, you are baptized, you are a communicant, let's wed you in the church. Then after the marriage, they now decide to go back to whichever church they want to.
I think sometimes people enter into such unions with deception. I don't know, I cannot legislate because I don't know, but I'm just giving hypothetical answers. It's possible that such persons come and then maybe somebody else mentions that, but I thought you were, you said, no, I used to, but I'm no longer there anymore. And then the church allows them to be wedded. Because if we know, we will not allow for such a marriage. It will not fly. But sometimes people deceive, and they deceive themselves. The woman will say, oh, because I want to marry, this will not be a hindrance. Just tell them that you're now back to the church. When you finish, you can go back to where you're going to. Who are you deceiving? You're deceiving yourself.
My last question, Father. Actually, I'm asking this question because I used to know someone. In fact, he was my very good friend. He was a cultist. And my dad and my priest said I should not marry that person because he was a cultist. But later on, I kept telling him to go for exorcism. But later on, I found out that he got married to someone in the Catholic Church. Is it that they don't really tell the priest who really they are? And then they will just decide to get married like that, and the church decides to wed them.
There are processes in the church. There are processes. That's why I tell you, courtship ordinarily should take like 1 year. That's number one. The question is, the person that he married, does that person really know who she's married to? Your family at least has that knowledge, and they were able to say, don't go there. The person who eventually married this person know what they are getting into. That's number one. Number two, when the bands of marriage were called out, did people come forward to say, look, this person is a known cultist. We don't think he's suited for this state of life. There are processes. So when eventually tomorrow something escalates, something comes up, we'll go back to your file. We're going to look at all the documents that you submitted and say, did this come up? Is it a case of deception? So if it's a case of deception, the marriage ipso facto is invalid. So even though they don't live together, they don't marry, they don't get 10 children, they are not married. Okay? Because there's deception. Deception is the grounds for nullification of a marriage. It's grounds for annulment, meaning that the marriage never took place. The question here is, what is the church's position on genotype when preparing for marriage? A valid Catholic marriage results from 4 elements. 4 elements are required for a valid marriage. If you have this, number 1 says what? The spouses are free to marry. The person not the father, the person not the reverend sister. The person is not consecrated to the church. The person is not does not have history of madness. The person is not sickly. They say gluten, chop food. The person, to chop food is a normal thing. There are other things that are like impediments to marriage that will prevent you from marriage. Some are temporary, some are permanent. Impotence. If you are impotent, you cannot marry. You are not allowed to marry. The marriage is invalid if you enter into that kind of a marriage. For sterility or impotence. For a woman, if it is confirmed that you cannot carry a child, you shouldn't enter into marriage. Let the other person know. If the person says, I don't mind, fine. But you shouldn't deceive the person into marriage and then enter marriage and say you're praying for some kind of miraculous healing. You know they work like that. It doesn't work like that. Let the other person know. Number 2, they freely exchange their consent. Both of you say, I won't marry you, I won't marry you, and both of you agree. Nobody's forcing you. Your parents are not behind you saying, go, Joe, you must marry him, or you must marry her. No. Because the church will ask you these questions too. Have you come here freely, of your own free will, to come and be joined in this marriage? Yes, we have. Yes, we have. You have to answer with your own mouth. And they will put mic, give you mic so that they will hear, everybody will hear and well. You cannot do, I want to marry, but no. You have to state it clearly. Number 3, in consenting to marry, they have the intention to remain married for life. The intention must be there. You know, we say, for better, for stay. For no better, they carry myself, they go. You can't do that. You must have the intention of staying in that marriage. If you do not have the intention of staying, that marriage is by that very fact nullified. Even if you go through the marriage is null and void. So you may come together, exchange the vows and everything, and then when you guys say, if this marriage, no, if you do this one, I'm not going to stay. That marriage is already invalidated by that statement. Okay? So you must intend to be married, to remain married for life. Number 3, your best bet as a couple is when AA marries AS. You give birth, God willing, to children with AA and AS, which is good. So at least they can go through life as normal persons. But sometimes, if you are not lucky, all the kids will be AS, which limits their choice of partners as well. So, but then it's better to remove or eliminate the possibility of having children who become sickle cell carriers or even sickle cell sufferers. There are some people who are carriers but never really suffer it by some stroke of miracle. But some others are carriers and they suffer it and they will go into a crisis over time. AS and AS are advised not to marry. They are advised. We won't stop them if they say they want to marry. But they are advised not to marry because there is every chance of having a child with SS. But persons who do not meet these requirements may still choose to marry and may be allowed depending on the diocese or part of the world where they reside.
The other question here, we know that we are at the end time. Light and darkness is a battle. These days, as a legionary, from my presidium, there is this trend. Somebody who has left Lagos, gone back to the village, and the person that she want to get married to say, make una forget about this Oyibo marriage, that in these days they have gone back to the ancestral system, that once you have done traditional wedding, that the Igbo people are deceiving us. Now that they are into Ahmadiyya, you should swear with Ahmadiyya and everything is done. What I'm talking about is that these are things we come across as legionnaires when we go out for legion work. Yeah. And even today when I was going home, I could see some young men from the east carrying big masquerade, dancing here in Lagos. These are the set of people who perhaps in their mind I believe in their own Ahmadiyya and say, no need of going to church wedding. Just one day carry Ahmadiyya and swear, go and live together. So the lady has called us and said, we should be praying for her, for God to change the mind of the person that she's getting married to. So these are the few things I can remember for now.
All that is required for an adult to be baptized is that they present themselves. They go through the instruction and then they are baptized. They don't need consent from anybody. It's only a child that needs the consent of their parents. But an adult is allowed to be baptized, even when the family is even against it. Because salvation is for everyone, and everyone deserves it. If they desire it, they should be given. So it needs to be clarified what the husband what the husband was needed for that to be made that way. The second is a Catholic who marries a non-Catholic, and then because of that was taken away to another church, and then upon the death of the non-Catholic spouse, the person wants to come back. What do they need to do? They just need to present themselves to their parish priest, and then explain what has happened, and then they'll be put through some kind of catechesis, like a refresher course, to remind them of what they used to do before they left. I've had cases of people who come to confession after years of being away from confession, and they cannot say the act of contrition very well again. So you need some kind of fresher course. Here we do a 6 weeks back to the fold classes, just to remind you of what your faith teaches you again, in order for you to now return to the sacrament. It is the church's joy that people come back to the sacrament. As different from when somebody says, I've stopped evolving in my growth of knowledge of God, I want to go back to start worshiping stone and iron and masquerades. That is a clear case of one of two things. Number one, either a lack of sufficient knowledge about their faith, which makes them now say, let me go back to something else. Or a clear case of people who say, whichever God you worship, each of them is equally potent. Where we talk about syncretism, where some people say, I believe that God is there, but I want to worship this one, or whichever one I worship is okay. So such people, before you even get into that marriage, you know that such a person has such tendencies. But then you decide to go on with that. Those are things that people need to pay attention to. You're going into marriage with somebody, how devoted is this person in their faith? People don't just change from Christianity to animism overnight. They have some vestiges of it in themselves before they now decide that, okay, by conviction, this is where I want to go to. Except something really, really drastic happened, which many times is rare. If anything, people know what they want to do beforehand, and they've already made their decision. It's just a matter of time before it becomes manifest. So if you are going out with somebody, find out, what is this person like? You know, there are some people who say, oh, they go to church, and then later on you see them following masquerade around. You should ask yourself, where is this person's faith really based? What's this person's understanding of faith, of Catholic faith, as different from, and what's this person's understanding of the first commandment? You shall have no other God before me. This is very important. Now, next question. What do you want in your marriage? The question says, marriage is a call from God, and you should prepare for it just like any other vocation or any other mission in the church. This includes the following. Number one, prayer and spirituality. Be a person of prayer. If you want to marry, pray. Number two, maintaining a chaste relationship with God before marriage so that your judgment is not clouded by emotion or physical attractions alone. So, be chaste in your relationship. Avoid any form of intimacy before you decide to marry. So that if something comes up, you are not biased. Your mind is not torn. Is okay, but I like this person, no. But I love that person, no. But I don't like this. No, you are able to make a sound and informed judgment. Number three, a good sacramental life along with spiritual direction. Sacramental life, be close to the sacrament. You cannot be chaste if you are not close to the sacraments. Confession, communion. And then what? a spiritual director, somebody who you can always go to ask questions about your life and about your decisions. The next one is know some basic things about yourself. What makes you angry? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? And so on and so forth. Know yourself. If you don't know yourself, you are going to discover yourself in a very harsh way in marriage. If you don't know yourself, if you don't know what your reactions will be to certain things, when you enter marriage, your eye will clear, and then it will be too late. What are your ideas about the following? This is like a follow-up to the other one. What are your ideas about the following? Money habits. Are you a spender or are you a saver? Are you generous? Are you papa everybody, just throwing money anywhere? Or are you the kind of person who says, I want to be careful about how I spend my money? What are your ideas about parenting? How do you want to raise your children? You need to know. Am I the kind of person who uses koboko to flog my children? Am I the person who just wants to use words to correct my children? Am I the kind of person who wants to tell them to kneel down, or tell them to stand in the corner and face the wall, or no food for you, or whatever, as my way of parenting? And you need to know, let the other person know what your own idea of parenting is, and also learn what the other person's idea of parenting is, so that when you enter into the situation, both of you are not conflicting. Your wife starts beating your child, and you start saying, don't beat my child. And the child now says, okay. So next time anything comes, the child now runs to the one that doesn't beat, and then both of you now start fighting. The child has won. So parenting style, you need to know what your parenting styles are. You may not have like a full-on idea, but ask yourself, if my child lies, what should I do? If my child steals, what do I do? If my child deceives me into believing that something is the case and is not the case, what do I do? If the child goes out and comes back later than a particular time, what should I do? If the child beats his fellow younger sibling or insults his older sibling, what should I do? These are all scenarios that you have to play out in your head and ask yourself, what will I do in such a situation? And let the other person know that this is the way I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do in such a situation. Me, I believe in spanking. I will spank the child because I was spanked. If not, I will just become another kind of human being. So you need to be able to say, this is what I would do in such a situation. I'll spank this child. I would use it not often. It's not going to be my immediate resort. It may to be my last resort. But you need to know that when it gets tough, this child needs to feel some level of pain to be able to associate pain and wrongdoing. And I'm also the kind of person who rewards. So if you do well, I will give you something. So don't come and say, you are spoiling the child by giving the child a gift. If the child does well, the child needs to know that they've done well. So there has to be an equal remuneration for good and for bad. Now, to the question that I wanted to answer before that. What do you do when a partner leaves? The other person says, I don't do again. A person decides to remarry. Or a person decides to go somewhere else and choose to settle down with another person. Well, you should make the case known to the church. The person will be given, letters will be sent to this person, asking the person to respond and answer to the case. Are you leaving the marriage? On what grounds and all of that? If it now becomes a case of, how do you say now? The man has already settled to that marriage, okay? Depending on the circumstance that led to that separation, you will be granted a separation and the woman will be allowed to marry. It will be a case that the man never really was in need for the long run. Now, another very important question. I take this personal. That's what I titled this. How can the issue of marriage delay be handled after keeping good Christian devoted life and moral uprightness, yet no result? The question has two K legs. The question has two K legs. One K leg is that the person asking this question is presuming that by being a good Christian, by being a devout Christian, I keep myself away from God, therefore I will get husband, therefore I will get wife. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's not a X plus Y is equal to Z. It's not as simple as that. It's not as clean cut. Okay? So you are not worshiping God so that God will give you husband. You're not worshiping God so that God will give you wife. That's not why you're worshiping God. Your relationship with God continues whether you are married or single or a priest or a monk or a reverend sister or a nun, whatever, you ought to be in a relationship with God. Your marital status does not change your relationship status. Your relationship status with God remains the same. Your spirituality is the same. So whether you're married or not, that has to be cleared in our mind. So what do you do if you are finding yourself in a situation of delay? You want to marry, you're ready to marry, you're eligible to marry, but nobody's coming forward. This is a question that does not have a clear answer because it's not as simple as it sounds, okay? If you are doing your best, putting yourself out there for somebody to marry, just leave it in the hands of God, like the last speaker was saying. Do your own part and leave the rest to God. You shouldn't change who you are. Rather, see that as an opportunity that God has given you to serve Him in other capacities that you can. Mixed marriage or remixed marriage. This is the last point before I close shop. Some people say, oh, no Catholic suitor is coming. Should I marry a non-Catholic? And if I marry a non-Catholic, should both of us now have should I go over to the man's church? Mostly for the women. Now, there is a church statement with regard to this. According to the 1983 Code of Canon Law, marriage contracted between a Catholic and a baptized non-Catholic is called mixed marriage. Marriage contracted between a Catholic and a non-Christian, say a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist, or a Hindu, is called mixed marriage with a special clause called disparity of cult or disparity of religion, different religion, okay? And for both of these kinds of marriage, you need explicit written dispensation from the archbishop or the bishop of that diocese in order to wed. You cannot just go and carry yourself and marry somebody else, okay? And when you come to the parish office, you'll be advised, you'll be told what you need to do, because there are terms and conditions that you need to fulfill. What are those terms and conditions? There are 3 of them. Number 1, you must continue to practice your Catholic faith. Number 2, you must be sincere and make an honest promise. You must make a sincere and honest promise to do all that you can to baptize your children and raise them as Catholics. You make that promise. And then number 3, you must tell the person who is not a Catholic that, look, these are the responsibilities that fall on me as a Catholic. And the person must accept it. Now, these laws apply only to persons who are non-Catholics and are willing to accept the terms of the church. Not for former Catholics. You know, there are some cases where somebody is a former Catholic, there's a Catholic before, the Catholic and then left, and then wants to come and carry a Catholic away from the church. The church will tell you, sorry, you can't do that. It is already bad enough that you have left your faith. It is now worse if you are going to now carry our sister away or carry our brother away to wherever you are going to. Sorry, you cannot marry. So if any person decides to go on with the marriage after they've been told that, sorry, you can't marry somebody like this, who is very notorious for leaving their faith, you're on your own. You're doing your own bidding, not the church's bidding. You should be careful when you are getting into marriage, because when the marriage is looking like it's going to happen, you have all kinds of people telling you this, telling you that, telling you this, telling you that. As soon as you enter, everybody will remove hand, because it's no longer about them anymore. It's now both of you. Now it's both of you. It's more serious than it was before. If it becomes too bad that both of you cannot stand each other, file for a separation. Separation doesn't mean that both of you can remarry. It just means that you cannot stand each other in the same house. The church will grant you that. You can live apart. So you don't kill each other. So you don't wake up one morning and just say, yes, I shall arise. You will not arise again. There will be no arising anything. So one has to, you have to ask yourself, okay, has it gotten to that point? If you have not gotten to that point, the church will keep telling you, keep going, brother, well done. God is with you. You keep getting better. So the truth is, there's no hitch-free marriage. So if you are in a situation and you feel like you cannot cope with that situation, file for a separation.